Sounds good.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Reroot Yourself. Thank you to the ECBID for having me on this Friday morning. It's the weekend, and basically today we're going to talk about forest bathing and the healing power of nature. And this is the second session, so we're following on from last Friday's first one. Before I start, I need to go through the terms and conditions, in particular, the no liability, in the sense that in the fact that if you enter any of these activities that I'm going to sort of explain over the next sort of hour or so, and the ones in the workshop, which you'll get at the end, then you do so at your own risk. And that was obviously in the materials that were sent for when you signed up. So that's done. I've mentioned that. Let's get started. So Reroot Yourself is basically designed for people who are busy and have limited time. And it's all about understanding the healing power of nature and how this can actually hugely benefit your health and well-being. So over the next hour or so, I'm going to explain how nature can do this, how you can harness it and use it in your day-to-day life, and what the science is behind it as well. Why is it so good? And really, at the end of the day, what it's all about is finding presence and calm and becoming more in the now. So a little bit about me. I'm Nigel Jones, and I'm a positive psychology and behavioral change coach. I'm also an NLP practitioner, and I've written a book called Walking Back to Happiness. And I'm the founder of the 9km by 9 AM channel. And all this happened over the last 2 years when I went through this huge change, which I'll share with you and tell you my story, basically. Very short version of my story. So 2.5 years back, I would say, on the hamster wheel of life and really unfit, and basically in a system whereby I was getting up, going to work, coming home, watching Netflix, drinking a couple of glasses of wine, and then repeat. And that's basically what ended up my life was being. And I was in my mid-50s, and I just thought to myself, this has to change. So one morning I decided, this is it. I'm going to start walking. I'm going to start getting out in nature. I'm going to start to learn to meditate. I'm going to change my diet, and I stopped drinking alcohol. I quit cutting meat out of my diet, and I started walking. And for the first 2 years, say from May 21 to 23, I walked every morning 9 kilometers before 9 o'clock. And my wife couldn't believe I did this either, but I did it. And it was amazing, the change and the effect it had on my whole life. So I did over 6,000 kilometers. I was present at 700 sunrises, saw about 500 of them, and I did about 300 forest bathes, and this is ongoing as well. And what effect did that have? It basically meant that when I went to the GPs for my 5-year MOT, they said I was 5 years younger. Now, normally I used to clock up being 5 years older. So doing this really saved me 10 whole years of my life. I lost weight, I sleep 7 hours a night every night, blood pressure down, heart rate down, waking up raring to go, 5 o'clock, 5:30-ish, no anxiety, and I'm living in the now. And I really do put this all down to the walking, the forest bathing, and the meditating. And in this workshop, I'm going to share with you the tips, the tools, and how you can do it as well. So we're in workshop 2 today, Friday the 14th. And today we're going to go through some more detailed forest bathing techniques. I'll do a revamp as well, just a refresher of what forest bathing is, if you weren't on the first workshop. We're going to look at the Japanese 72 seasons, which are a really powerful thing to get into, and also the power of walking in nature. So let's kick in. So to get the most out of this course, it's really important to do the homework. And there is a PDF which Helena will send to you via email, or will drop in the comments or in the chat later on, and really reflect on what you've learned. So if you're doing the workshops and you're reflecting, then it will really make the difference. And most importantly, you can measure it. You can measure the success. And I've included in the PDF something called the POMS test, which is the profile of mood states. And this is really fascinating. I mean, the first time I did it, it's a real eye-opener, because you actually say to yourself, oh my God, I didn't realize I was that score for anxiety, for depression, for anger, for vigor, for fatigue, for confusion. And so all you simply do is, you see it on the screen in front of you, is there are a load of criteria. So if you take the first one, which is tense, you'd say to yourself, am I tense? And score it, not at all, a little bit, moderately, or quite a lot. Or extremely, and you actually get a score, a total score for all those 6 different moods. Now, once you've done that, put it in your drawer, and then once you've done the forest bathing workshops, score yourself again, and you will definitely see a shift, a positive shift on those scales. And so this is a really, really good way of measuring it. And almost everybody who does this says, wow, you know, depression levels down, anxiety down, I've got, you know, more energy just from the forest bathing. So please do the POMS test. It really is a proven test for measuring how good this stuff is. So reroot yourself. Let me have a little sip of water here. Just my mouth's dry. So as I was doing these walks along these country lanes early on in the journey, I was just thinking to myself, you know, I'm like an uprooted tree with my sort of roots in the air, and I don't really understand who I am anymore or what I'm doing. I'm sort of in this cycle. And I remember this reading this line from D.H. Lawrence, which was, bodily, the human race is dying. It's like a great uprooted tree with its roots in the air, and we must plant ourselves back in the universe. And I thought, I really want some of that. And so what I did is I learned loads and loads of meditation techniques and Japanese philosophies like forest bathing to actually reroot myself and increase my well-being, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. So what's actually going on? Why was I feeling like this? And why do a hell of a lot of people feel like it as well? It's because our bodies evolved around nature. I mean, we are literally made for the caves and the woods and living out in the open. But we actually spend most of our time in the 21st century in boxes. We live in houses, we go to work in a box, we actually travel there in a car or on a train, and we go to the box of the office. And then if we go on holiday, we get in another box, look at an aeroplane, and we go to a hotel, which is a box, and we pretty much do not go outside anything like the amount we need to. And that is causing huge health problems. And I've put just at the end here, we also end up in a box when we die. And the reality is that, you know, if you go to a hotel, a nice hotel, you'll pay more for the room with the view. If you're in a hospital, you'll recover quicker if you can see nature outside. So this stuff does work, and there is science behind it. And all we have to do is get out more. And so that's what Reroot Yourself is all about. So what I'd like us to do is just get straight into this and actually do an exercise around the Wood Wide Web. And when I first saw this, I just sort of said, wow, this is just absolutely amazing. And what the Wood Wide Web is under the ground, all the trees, or 90% of the trees on the planet and the plants, are actually all connected by the root system and a system of bacteria and fungi. And this is like 500 million years old. So it's older than the World Wide Web, but it's a lot better for you than the World Wide Web. So think of the Wood Wide Web now whenever you're outside, or you see a tree, or you touch a tree, or you take your shoes and socks off and you touch the grass, or you touch the sand on a beach, or literally walking through the forest, because you are effectively connecting to that network. Because the earth is like a giant battery giving off low-level electricity and emissions. And in the bottoms of our feet, soles of our feet, we have over 100,000 points whereby electrons come out. And so if you are barefoot standing on the earth, or your hands are touching a tree, you are connecting, or you are logging on, forgive the pun, to the Wood Wide Web. And so there's a little exercise I've got now. It lasts a couple of minutes. And you can do this anytime. You can do it at lunchtime in the park, or you can do it in your garden, or you can do it in the woods. So if we, you can stay seated down, but ideally stand up, but you don't have to. And the idea is to put your feet shoulder width apart, and have your hands hanging down by your sides. Just wiggle your fingers down by your sides and get relaxed. And then think of your feet as sinking into the ground. I mean, if you take your shoes and socks off, this is brilliant. If you're standing outside on grass or on the earth, if you're in an office, it's not going to be exactly the same, but you'll get the point, and you can do this later on. So think about roots growing out from the bottom of your feet and actually connecting to that wood wide web. And really, this is the electricity, the electrons that are passing from your body into the ground, and it's linking you to that huge network. And if you can get your mind around this, really you are connecting to trees and plants that are in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, all over the world, because you are now logged on or connected to that wood wide web. And imagine yourself now, those roots connecting down into the wood wide web. You are fully connected. And as you breathe in, slowly taking that deep breath in, feel as if you're drawing up all the energy from all the trees on the planet into you and into your heart. And then hold it there for a few seconds. And then when you breathe out, you're releasing that energy into the sky, which is going into the wider cosmos and back into the universe. And then repeat again, draw up that energy through your breath into your heart. Think about all that's coming from. The whole planet is coming into you, and then release it into the atmosphere. And do that a few times and start to ground yourself and reroute to the wood wide web. Breathe in. And out. And when you're ready, just shake that off, open your eyes, shake your head a bit. And that basically is a grounding technique to actually link yourself to the wood wide web and all the trees on the planet. You can do that anytime. You can actually do it sitting on a train, or you could do it in the office, wherever you are. So what I'd like to say is that is really, really powerful, and it's something you can always harness. If you didn't get the effect then in the office, you sure will if you're standing outside. It's why when we walk on the beach with no shoes on our feet, that it just feels so damn good. And if you're walking through in your park or in your garden with bare feet, you're actually linking electrically to the planet, and it's good to have in your mind that all those power and energy of the trees are coming through you. And that really is the start of rerouting. So Shinrin Yoku. We covered this last week as an introduction, so I'll just give a very quick sort of refresher. Shinrin Yoku means forest bathing. So the Shinrin is forest and the Yoku is bathing. And this was invented or created in Japan hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But the actual term Shinrin Yoku was only coined in 1982 by the Japanese government to create a campaign to make the Japanese population fitter. So it designated, I think there's about 150, 200 forests now in Japan, which are actually Shinrin Yoku forests, which people can go to connect with nature. And what is it? Very simply defining it, it's using your 5 senses, opening your 5 senses to what's around you. So it's breathing in the smells of the woods, looking at the trees, looking at the clouds, looking at what's around you, listening to the birds, tasting the running water, or making tea from nettles, or drinking elderflower. And it's about touching the ground, touching the trees. And when you actually open all those 5 senses, this magical 6th sense comes around, and it's literally the time when you get that, you actually completely absorb yourself in nature. And this is truly possible, and it's really easy to do just through mindfulness practice and opening your senses in the woods or in the park or in your garden. So let's jump in. So everything I'm going to talk about today, you can actually take and use anytime in your day. You can do it at home, on the train, in the office, and also in the park. So let's have a look at forest bathing from a real big picture. How long should, these are the classic questions that come up when you don't know anything about it. How long should I forest bathe for? Ideally, the experts say you should do a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours. But that's, you know, of course, yeah, brilliant. The longer you can do it, the better. But I'm a firm believer that you can do this in chunks. And I've been doing that for 2 years. So I forest bathe pretty much 15 minutes a day in the mornings when I'm on my walks and I stop in the woods, or I stop near a stream, or I stop to listen to the birds. You can do it. And literally, if you're doing it regularly for 10, 15, 20 minute sort of pockets of time, then it will build up and you will see huge benefits. And if you're doing it regularly like that, once a week, you want to go and do a 2-hour one. So that's how long you should do it for. You can do it alone or in a group. Ideally, you do it in a place where there are trees and obviously out in nature. The lighter, the better. And what types of activity are there? There is probably an infinite number of things you can do, but I've just classified here the sort of things that are popular in forest bathing. And they're like walking slowly around the forest, taking in, opening your senses, yoga, eating, sleeping, drinking, bathing, meditating, aromatherapy, singing, shouting, talking to trees. It's basically living in the woods, but being mindful about it and opening your senses. And what I'll do over the next few slides is go through the 5-step process of forest bathing, which is finding the right location, setting your intentions, crossing the threshold, a few activities you can do, and then reflection. So choosing a forest. So this is my perfect space, which I'll show you a video in a second. You can go to a park, you can go to your garden, or you can go to a massive forest. But the reality is, go somewhere which is quiet and you can just sit down, relax, and be mindful for what's around you. The Japanese say, have at least a 5K walk in the forest. We have plenty of trees, not too dark, wide variety of plants. A water feature is fantastic, free of pollution and away from noise and traffic. But at the end of the day, it could just be a bench in the park or in your garden. So what I'm going to do is show you my ideal space. I go here probably twice a week, and this is a little stream in a wood in Kent. So I'm just going to play this last 30 seconds. But when you see it, just get a feeling of being mindful there and just listen to the sounds and look at the trees and feel as if you can feel the breeze blowing over you when you look at this. So here we go. I'll play it now. It's absolutely beautiful there. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed time there, and you can see how just the noise of the birds or the sound of the birds and the running water, you can activate all your senses when you've got like that water and the trees and the noise and the touch. And then what I do is I'll drink a cup of tea there, and so I'll feel the taste as well of the forest as I'm sitting there. So that's the first thing. Choose the right place. The second thing is setting your intentions. And there's this great thing I learned from Zen Buddhism, which is what you intend to do leads to your destiny. It defines who you are. And by that, what they mean is, if you intend to do something, you will do that deed. And if you do enough of those deeds, they will become a habit. And if you do that habit for long enough, it will become your character. And that will lead to your destiny and who you are. So the point of this whole Zen teaching, very simply, is if you intend to forest bathe, then over time, you'll start to do it. it'll become a habit, and it will lead to you actually linking in with the planet, and your well-being will improve. So bear that in mind, that what this all boils down to at the end of the day is your intention to do this. So make it your intention to forest bathe. And when it is your intention, there are lots of things you can do. So when I forest bathe, I always say to myself, well, why am I doing this today? What's it all about for me? And it can be really simply, I want to relax. I had a stressful day yesterday. I just want to let everything go and just relax. It could be that I want to sort of mull over an issue I've got, that may be at work or in a relationship, but you can take those intentions to the woods with you. And when you become mindful, because the woods allows you to focus in and forget about the past and forget about the future and zone in on the now, you can actually start to find the space between your thoughts, and you can find this real calmness, which only forest bathing can really do. So intentions are so important. I just want to say one thing on the moon. It's a powerful practice to set your intentions, and a lot of forest bathers do this around the new moon cycle, because the new moon, historically from a farmer's and a gardener's perspective, was the time when you plant, because the lunar gravity pulls up the water and causes the seeds to swell. So similarly, treat the new moon as a time to plant seeds in the garden of your mind, or in the garden of your life. And so when you know it's the new moon, say, well, right, in the next 28 days, I'm going to do 4 forest bathes, and they're going to be this, and this day, and plan it around that cycle. And it does, if you believe, and I believe it does work, it does lead to your intentions and the forest bathes actually working a lot better. So step 3 is go through the door and leave the world behind and go into the forest. You cannot go to the forest with the same mindset that you have in the outside world. So what I say is you've got to leave your day-to-day life behind, because this is the whole beauty of this, is you are rerouting yourself. You're going back to nature. You're going back to where your body is evolved for. So the easiest way to do this from a psychological point of view is, as you walk to your wood or to your park or your garden, have an imaginary line or put a stick down and then physically step over it. And when you do that, you've walked through that door, because it's in your own mind. No one else knows what you're doing. It's just in your mind, but you've physically moved into that new space. You could also say a prayer for the forest, say, thank you for having me today, and just be grateful. A lot of people give offerings, and that can be simply just a wish to say thank you. But what I tend to do is I always take a flask of tea with me to the woods, and I pour a little bit of the tea into the ground, and it's like me giving some of my tea to the woods. And it works for me, and it's almost like an offering. It's just sort of showing my respect for the forest. Other people ask for permission, and this is really important as well. If you're going to go to the woods, say, is it okay if I'm here today? And you can say this in your mind. You don't have to say it out loud. And when you're there, tread lightly. If you can, take your shoes and socks off, because like I said earlier on, it's all about the grounding and electrically linking in to the planet. So that's the third bit. The fourth bit is activities. What sort of things do you do there? And I'm going to come on to a load of those, and we're going to get interactive in about 5 minutes. But just giving you the big picture, when you go to the forest, it's all about opening your senses, the 5 senses, and letting it into yourself. So the first thing you should do is turn off your phone, or better still, don't take it. Find that quiet place I talked about, so know where you're going, and then start to savor the smells, the sights. Feel, the wind going through your hair, or listen to the leaves, and listen to the birds, and look at the clouds, and look at the fractal patterns in the trees. This is the process. These are the activities. So what I wanted to just talk really briefly about, and this really was quite an eye-opener for me when I first saw it, was to believe that you are in fact a walking tree. And what I mean by that very simply is, like trees which are rooted into the ground, we're also rooted to the earth, because we breathe in the air, we drink the water, and we eat the food from the ground. So there is like a root there. And we're rooted through the air. If you think of our lungs as being what the roots are to the soil, our lungs are to the air. I mean, we could not live without the air. So there's a definite root there. Hold your breath for 2 minutes and you won't be around for very long. So, you know, that root is there. And forest bathing is all about re-establishing yourself. You know, we forget that we're actually rooted to this planet. So remember that there is this bond. You are a walking tree. I mean, you don't have to look like a tree when you walk around, but just, you know, have in your mind, I am actually rooted to this planet through my organs, through my senses. And you reframe it. You have another perspective on how all this looks. And that's the key to actually being successful at this. So again, another little exercise, and this is connecting with a tree. We'll do this for about a minute. And the whole point of this is it's similar to the logging onto the Wood Wide Web, but it's more linking to a tree. So obviously we don't have any trees in our office environment, but just imagine that your desk is the bark of a tree just by putting your hands on it. And just, I mean, ideally you could wrap your arms around a tree, or you could just put your hands on the tree itself, on the bark, or even press your forehead against it. But for today, if we just press our hands lightly down onto the desk and believe that that is a tree. I mean, you could do this afterwards in your garden or at lunchtime in a park. And then take a few deep breaths to relax. You can stand, as I say, or sit, and have your feet shoulder width apart, hands on the desk, believing it's a tree, and then take those breaths in, and then feel the energy from your heart going straight into the tree. And as you breathe in, absorb the energy through your hands. So it's coming through your hands from that tree, and also coming up through your feet as well, into your heart. And as you breathe out, release it back into the tree, through its trunk, its branches. The energy is leaving you and then going up through the leaves into the sky. And as you breathe in the oxygen or the air around you from the atmosphere, take that back into your heart. And as you breathe out, release that energy through your feet, through your lungs, back into the Wood Wide Web. And do that on a cycle. We'll do one more, but when you get the chance later, do this today. So breathe in and absorb the energy through your hands. So the energy from that tree is coming through your hands, up through your feet and into your heart. And then give it back as you breathe out. So it's back through your hands, into the tree, through the trunk, up through the branches, out through the leaves, and into the cosmos, into the atmosphere. And then breathe back in the air, back into your heart. And as you breathe out, release all the energy through your feet, through your lungs, back into the Wood Wide Web. And you can continue just doing that for as long as you like. I mean, I can do that normally for 10 minutes quite quickly. Time just goes back really quickly. And after it, when you open your eyes, you've really had a great relaxing meditation, mindfulness session. And it is so good for your mental health. Just try doing that. Connect with a tree. It's really good. It's in the PDF and it's in the workshop. So shake that off, open your eyes, shake your head a bit. And the last part of the forest bathing process is reflecting, and it's harnessing what you've learned. So crossing back over, back into the real world, you've got to take some time to go back across that threshold consciously and graciously. And it's all about your intention. At the end of the day, your intention is to integrate the wisdom that you gain in the forest with your everyday life. And it's about creating a new way of being. And when you do this, when you've left the forest and you've started to feel the benefits of forest bathing, you'll start to tell other people about it. And then they'll get inquisitive and they'll go, oh, what's she on about? Or what's he on about? And before you know it, they'll be doing it as well. And so it's like spreading the love. So this is a really good way of harnessing and reflecting and talking to other people. A few things you can do. I always thank the forest as I leave, say thank you for today. I take the time to reflect. I've got a journal. Please buy a journal if you haven't got one, and write down what you learned today. What did I do in the forest? What were the effects on me? What noticeable effects did I notice on my health? Some people designate a prayer tree, which means, you might be on your way to work and there's a tree that you see every day, or there's a tree in your garden. But when you see that tree, let it remind you of the experience that you had in the forest. So use that tree to harness the feelings you got when you forest bathe. So you might be on a tube train or a train, you look out the window and there's a tree you see every day. That's the trigger, that's the anchor that takes you back to the forest. It really makes you reflect and harness. I have a daily routine and I've just got so used to this. I just wake up, and as I breathe in, I believe I'm breathing with the trees. I say thank you to the sun, I connect to the sun. When I pour my tea in the morning, I say thank you to the earth for providing the tea and providing my breakfast. And when I brush my teeth, thank you for the water. And this is really good. I mean, all around my office, I've got like stones and stuff. So this rock is actually from the top of Vesuvius mountain in Italy, which I went to a couple of weekends ago. And so when I put that on my desk, it takes me back there, because I just look at it and think, wow, yeah. And I go through the experiences I had there. This one's like from the top of Snowdon. And I've got like a stone here, which is from Whitstable Beach. So when I look at those objects from nature, like stones and rocks, they actually take me back to the feelings that I had when I was forest bathing. So that's what harnessing is about. So some activities you can do. Just obviously conscious of the time, we're about halfway through, so I'm just going to go straight into doing some stuff now. So you're going to get your hands a little bit dirty if you've brought some soil with you. So I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 activities you can do linked to these 4 elements, the ancient scheme of the 4 elements of the earth. So you've got the earth, water, air, and fire. So earth. So the activities around the earth are all about connecting to the physical world. So the first thing I want to talk is, I don't know if you've got some soil. I've got some, it feels a bit like Blue Peter. Here's some I did earlier on. Just put the soil in front of you for a sec. And this is amazing, right? It's just really, really powerful. So I found out that, and obviously it's a widely known fact, that soil contains something which is roughly known as the happy bacteria. It's called Mycobacterium vaccae. And what it does is, when you put your fingers in soil, so just if you grab some soil, just put it in your hand, just hold it in one hand like that, and you move it back and forth, what's happening is it's activating neurotransmitters in the brain, because it's giving off a scent. And you bring it up close and just sort of smell it a bit. You're actually releasing serotonin, which is the happy hormone, which makes you feel positive and happy. I mean, you won't notice it massively just by smelling one bit of soil. But if you do this for 5 minutes, you're in the garden, you're gardening, and this is why gardeners are so happy. It does work. I mean, you do feel a change in your mood. And, if you're doing the POMS test again, which I mentioned earlier, you will see a shift. And so just by simply moving some dirt around your hands, you get it under your nails, it gets on your hand, the air in the air, the particles are in the air, and you're breathing it in. And basically you're releasing serotonin, the happy hormone. So I'd give that a go. Do it every day. Just go out and sort of put your hands in some soil. When you buy fresh carrots or fresh vegetables and they've got like dirt on them, people pay more money for this. It's because it's like, it looks organic and it's like real and it's from the earth. And it's simply just normal, good old garden soil. And it really does have a massive effect on your mood of happiness. The next thing I want to talk about is, and you can have a go at this as well, is stone embodiment. You must have seen these stone sculptures that people have been making over the last few years. I mean, they've always been popular in forest bathing, but recently they've come to sort of be more popular with like Instagram and stuff. People sort of sending their photos of them. But stones, if I just take like a couple of minutes to explain, I'll just pick this rock up from Vesuvius. I mean, this was thrown out of Vesuvius like 2,000 years ago. But the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. And it's thought, geologists say, that the rocks, roughly, the first rocks were created about 3 billion years ago. So when you actually pick something like this up, it's basically billions of years old. Some pebbles on the beach are around, some of them, the younger ones, are like 10,000 years old. But in the main, rocks and stones are like over 1 million and sometimes up to 1 billion or plus years old. And so think about that. What you've got in your hand here is something that is just got such longevity. It's like going back to the start of time on this planet. And this is all about rerouting. So if you do have a stone, I mean, it can be just a simple little stone, which I picked up on the beach. Hold it in front of you with both hands, and like so, and close your eyes and just don't look at it. Just feel the stone as you move it round, and then with both hands, bring it into your heart. So you've brought it into, you're touching it. So any energy that's in that stone is going into your body, and feel that. And this is called stone embodiment. And it's a very powerful thing to do when you're out in nature, in the forest. So I'll just show you the process so you can do it in your own time in the garden or in the woods. And then think about the sensations you're feeling as you hold that stone on your heart. I mean, you probably like take 5-10 minutes to do this, and you'd feel different parts of your body would have a response. I mean, at the moment I've got like a tingling in my knee just by pressing that on my heart. And it's a really good way of, again, being mindful of your body using a stone which is as old as the earth. And then stretch the stone out just with one hand, hold it and just move it around and move from side to side. So if you're in the woods, you would do some circles or move it up or down, and it will actually start to give you a direction. This is so weird in that it would like to take you to a direction, and then follow the stone. If it points north, follow it to where it leads you. And so the stone is like a real powerful tool that you can use in forest bathing. And then feel the sensations that it gives you as you feel it, you know, in your hands around your body, and let it guide you. And that's called stone embodiment. And it's basically when you've, you know, after 5-10 minutes, put the stone back down in the ground and leave it where you found it. Or if you want to, take it home, put it on your desk, and remember how good it made you feel when you were in the woods. So there's loads of things you can do with stones. You can make little sculptures as well, but they're everywhere in the woods, and that's why forest bathers use them a lot. So moving on to water. I love forest bathing, including water in my forest bathing. And why is water so good for our well-being? Well, really, this is the science. We are 70% water. So there's a deep biological connection that is triggered as soon as our brains get near water. It just naturally happens that you say, wow, look at the sea, or wow, look at that river, or look at that pond, or look at that lake. The mere sight and the sound of water induces like these neurochemicals, and this is what science says, that promote wellness, increase blood flow to the brain, and you basically get inducement of relaxation. It's very relaxing. So that's why it's used massively in meditation. I'm going to play a video of some water which I see regularly on my walks in a second, and ask you to be mindful as you watch the video of the water and see if you can, you can feel that as well. So again, sort of in San Francisco Zen Center, they talk about listening to water is like having it wash over you is such a meditative act. It's like one of the easiest ways to meditate. So what I do is obviously find a safe place, but sit near the water, look at the water, gaze at the water, and breathe slowly as you're doing this. And I'll play a little video of some water, which I recorded the other week. So pretend you're sitting on this riverbank, listen to the water, take 3 or 4 breaths in and out, but only listen to the water and just let it flow over you. Here we go. Right. So you can see it's powerful stuff, and you really need like 20 minutes there just to like listen to it. But that's a great way of actually meditating or being mindful and rerouting yourself, is to just listen to the water and breathe in. So you don't have to be down next to the river. You could simply take a shower. I mean, if once you get in the shower, you are effectively engaging all your senses. The sound, the touch, you might be swallowing, the taste as well, but really every sense is engaged when you immerse yourself in water. So it could be as simple as taking a shower, or it could be going to the swimming pool, or it could be listening to like the sound of a fountain, or it could be going down and joining a sea swim club. So, but the idea is there's loads and loads of ways you can interact with water, and it is one of the most powerful things to actually relax and be mindful with. I'm going to quickly do this, which is called the mammalian diving reflex. And this is such a great tool to have in your armament. I've got a bowl of water here, and I'm not going to get too wet. But the idea is that we've evolved that in such a way that if our faces are immersed in water, our minds are just completely wiped straight away. There is no thoughts whatsoever. We go into the fight, flight, freeze biological reaction because it's life or death. Our body believes that we are under the water, just about to drown. But you can use this. So simply by taking some water in your hand, the trick is where the nerves that create this is on just below the cheekbones, or above and below the cheekbones. So obviously, before you do this, I have put on you, beware that if you do have a heart condition, it can be serious. So only do this if you believe you're healthy enough to do so. So that is definitely something you should bear in mind before doing it. So dip your hands in some water, touch it onto your skin, and do it a couple of times, and you will definitely feel this reaction of your mind clearing. And if you do, I'm not going to do it now, but if you throw a load of water over your face, within 10 seconds, you will just be like, if you had any anxious thoughts, they would have gone. And it does work. It does work. And so this is a really great way of zoning in for something. If you've got a meeting you want to go to and you want to get rid of any anxiety, just throw some water in your face and it'll just completely wake you up and just make you in the zone. And so that's the power of water, and that's called the mammalian diving reflex. But it also works on a huge scale on mindfulness for your well-being as well. Okay, air. The idea with air, it's all about breathing, and it's all about the taking in the smells of the forest. So I've listed just a couple of things here. So when you're in the woods, or you're in the park or in the garden, when you breathe in, be mindful of these two things, because they will change your life. The first one is negative ions. Now, negative ions are actually positive. They're good for you in the sense that when you breathe them in, they give you this huge positive effect and on the whole of the body. And they normally exist near waterfalls or just after it's rained in the woods. So it's that smell you get after it's completely poured down with rain and you're in your garden and there's that smell in the air. That's the negative ions. And normally in your office, there are like 5 or 6 or 7 per cubic centimeter. But after it's rained, there are like 100,000. So you can see the power of this, and they are really good for you. So there's no excuse for not going out for a walk into the woods after it's just rained, because that's the best time for negative ions, at least. The other thing is phytoncides. Now, these are particles given off by the bark of trees. And when we breathe them in, science says that they increase the number of natural killer cells that we have in our body. And get this, natural killer cells fight cancers. So just by simply breathing in the forest, you are growing the power of your body to fight any disease that comes into it. So those are two massive things about the air. I'm going to show you this yogic breathing exercise, which is a really good way of maximizing the intake of these negative ions and phytoncides when you're out in the woods or in the park. And very simply, if you stand up, we'll do this for a minute. You legs, feet shoulder width apart, and let your hands hang down by your side. But this time what I want you to do is have your palms facing out, so they're facing with you. And as you breathe in, you move your arms up above your head so they touch at the top, like so. And you take about sort of 8 seconds to get up there, then hold it there for about 5. And then you turn your hands out like this, and you push down as you breathe out. And take about 10 seconds to do that. So you've got a cycle of about 20, 23 seconds. So it's in, and you bring your hands together, hold, and then you breathe out, pushing down by your side. You can stand on tiptoes if you like as well, as you get to the top. And the idea is that you become mindful of your breathing. So on the in-breath, you're breathing in those negative ions. Stop my timer. And on the out-breath, breathe them out. Breathe in those phytoncides. And in the out-breath, breathe them out. And this is a great way of just concentrating your mind on the sense of breathing and breathing in all those beautiful smells that the forest, the park, or the garden throws up for you. And I normally do that. It's a very quick exercise. You can do it 10 times, or you could do it for half an hour. But it's a great way of concentrating on smells. Okay, so shake that off, open your eyes. The other thing about air is just cloud watching. This is such a simple thing to do. So go to the park, look up, and just watch the clouds. They move all the time. And again, it's a great way using sight to actually just zone in to that sense and completely open that sense to nature. You can also track scents, smell things around you in the forest, and also reciprocal breathing. Just remember that when you breathe out, you're breathing out carbon dioxide, which the trees are breathing in. And when the trees are breathing out the oxygen, you're breathing that oxygen in. So you're actually reciprocating, you're giving and receiving with what's around you in nature. So just bear that in mind as well when you're on your forest bathe. The last one I'm going to talk about is fire. This doesn't mean setting fire to stuff. It's more about relationships, and talking is a large part of it. So the fire element, you can actually activate this by talking to a tree. It's great to do it out loud. You don't have to do it out loud, because I mean, if someone sees you, they might think you're a bit crazy. But actually, if you do it, in your mind, or if there's no one there, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. I mean, I just love talking to trees. It really works for me, because remember this, right? They listen to everything, and they never, ever give you a judgment. And so they're like the perfect coach in a way. And so it's great just to go to the woods and talk to a tree and just get off your chest whatever it is that is on your mind. And it's such a great release. And before you do it, look up at the tree, gaze up, look at its dominance. Some of these trees are like over 100, 200 feet tall, and say, can I talk to you today? Please let me talk to you. They never say no. And literally, it's a great way of relaxing and forest bathing through the fire element. So those are some quick activations. Loads of these are in the PDF and in workshops. I'm going to move on for the last 15 minutes of the presentation to how you can make this work indoors and in the office. We're going to look at some of the 72 seasons in Japan and a bit on walking as well, like 5 minutes on each. So indoors, forest bathing, you can definitely forest bathe indoors, and you can tap into everything that you've learned in the outdoors and bring it indoors. So some scary facts and figures. The average office worker spends 1,600 hours a year at work, or 35% of their waking hours in the course of a 50-year working life. So wouldn't it be great if you could if you can't get out, bring the forest in? And so here are some quick tips. I went to a friend's house the other day, and this poster was on the wall as you sat down in the toilet. Sorry for the information. You could see this poster, and I just looked up and I thought, wow, this is great. I mean, I'm not in a room in a London flat anymore. I'm actually looking out on the countryside, and it's so simple how this can trick your mind to thinking you are outdoors, you are meters away from those trees. Small, simple things make all the difference. So give your room a view. The real reason, or the two main reasons why we bring the woods or the forest inside, is because they help us breathe and they calm us. So basically, plants give off oxygen and they take out CO2, and they also make us feel much more calmer when they're around us. And the stats show that if you have plants in the office, you are more energized, you're more productive, you're less stressed, you're more efficient, you're more creative. And there's just huge benefits for morale. Sick leave goes down. There's the general feeling of ill health goes away. And this is all proven by science. So here's something I found out fairly recently. NASA, the North American Space Agency, has a top 10 list of plants that it recommends for the space station. So my thinking is, if it's good enough for NASA, it's good enough for me. And here they are. So basically, these are the ones that give out more oxygen than they take in carbon dioxide. So you can have them all day around, in the night as well, in your house or in your office. They're lilies, some ivies, chrysanthemums, and there's azaleas there and spider plants. But just go to the NASA site, put this in, and you can see them. And I've put this is one of the workshops in the PDF as well. To create the sounds of the forest, there's this great new app I found called the Merlin Bird app, which when you go out into the woods, just download the app, lift it up, press record. It records all the birds that are around you, and it tells you what they are. So you could just look at it and say, oh, wow, there's like a wren, a jay, a blackbird. And it's really good for improving your education of what those sounds are. And before too long, you start noticing and recognizing that's a wren, that's a blackbird, that's a pigeon. Also, go onto YouTube, loads of bird songs on that. So there's no reason why you can't play bird songs in your office. Fragrances, humongous amounts of like aromatherapy oils available. I use cedar-based ones in my office because they're just very relaxing. And so you can get those almost anywhere. So aromatherapy can create the smells of the forest as well as the sounds with birds. Barefoot grounding mats have been out for a few years, and the idea here is you buy one of these mats and you put it on the ground, take your shoes and socks off, and it feels as if you're outside, actually on the earth. So you can recreate that feeling of walking on that sandy beach or in that wood with a grounding mat. So you can see how within the office environment, you can create those smells, you can create those noises, you can create that touch, you can create those views. And really, at the end of the day, the science says it only takes something like 40 seconds of looking at a green view to start making you feel a lot better and just having a better, sort of more positive outlook on life. And again, that's from a couple of universities, that research. So lastly, on bringing the forest indoors, open a window or open the door, because it's proven that the air changes around about 28 times an hour if you've got the window open in your office. So again, get that fresh air in and create that feeling of the woods indoors. And natural versus artificial light is better as well. So put your desk near the window. again, as I say, the PDF and the workshops are all included. Now, what I'd like to do for 5 minutes and then 5 minutes on walking is talk about the Japanese micro seasons. Now, when I first started walking, I thought, wow, I'm noticing all these changes that are going on around me. And it's almost like there's mini seasons. And then I sort of realized that the Japanese had got there before me, and they'd done it maybe like 2,000-3,000 years ago. They'd come up with the idea that there are shorter seasons. And the Japanese cut their year into 72 seasons of 5 days. And so they measure time by what they see around them. So they have spring, summer, autumn, and winter, but spring is cut up into loads of little 5-day seasons, so you can become more aware and more reflective of what's going on around you. And this was created in its current format in the late 17th century. And I'll just put a few of them up in a second. But the reason why they do this is because you can become more present. If you know that the season is not spring, it's worms surfacing, or it's the cool winds are blowing, or it's the mist starts to hover, you become more aware that that's happening at the moment, and you become more in rhythm with the world and nature, and it connects you. And it also shows you this impermanence, that things change, they don't last forever. So it's really, really important. It works on so many levels from a forest bathing or a well-being perspective. I'll briefly go through these, just picking out a few. So if we in spring, the Japanese have these micro seasons, which are called like the east wind melts the ice, or the grass sprouts, trees bud, or the caterpillars become butterflies. And as you move into the summer, it's like the wheat ripens and is harvested, or the rotten grass becomes fireflies, or the hawks learn to fly, or the earth is damp and the air is humid. And then you move into autumn, they have things like the cotton flower blooms, the swallows leave, the wagtails sing. Really, really sort of colorful ways of describing what's happening in nature and the things that are happening around you. And then in the winter, it's the camellias bloom, the citrus trees' leaves start to turn yellow, the ice thickens on the streams. And so what I was doing as I was walking along these country lanes in Kent was thinking, what are the UK equivalent to this? And these are a few of the ones I wrote down. So I had like the daffodil shoots appear, the birds return, the rain moistens the soil, the squirrels vanish, the mushrooms mature. And I'm just going to show you like a handful of pictures that I took. And this is on the same walk each day, the same route. And it shows you how that 5K to 10K walk, just the environment changes on a 12-month basis. So mist hovering, rivers running low, first frost, puddles ice over. And you can see, like, you know, nature changing around you. Falling leaves freeze, the daffodils appear, the first snow, and then this lovely, beautiful color everywhere as you get into summer. Lambing season, snails crossing the road. This is really weird, but the same time every year, in like a 2-week period, snails cross the road. So I've called that a season. Wisteria, crops shooting up, giant daisies. I mean, this is what we're seeing at the moment, like the foxgloves in the country lanes, the height of summer, the canopies on the trees, just absolutely beautiful. Bumblebees, plums ripening, sunflowers smiling, the apples ready to fall, the roadside thistles. And so just to give you an idea of, like, you know, this is what I see every day. And when you start to notice the smaller changes around you, you start to get linked in and connected to nature. So one of the workshops in the PDF is go out there with your camera, take some pictures on your iPhone, store them up, and then look at them like a month later and notice that, oh, right, that lane's changed, or that wood's changed. It looks different now. It's a really great exercise to do. So lastly, for the last 5 minutes, I'm going to just do a few slides from the walking section on this before we wrap up, because I know a lot of you have got stuff to do today. I've been walking a lot, as you know, and I'm just going to jump into the actual the power of walking and why it's so important. walking basically is very, very good for the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is one of the most important nerves in the body. It connects the brain to most of the primary organs, and when we walk, it gets activated. And by breathing, steady stretching, doing things like yoga also help it. But it basically regulates the adrenal gland, and that leads to lots and lots of positive physical and mental well-being things on your body. There's loads and loads of great scientific benefits on walking, like it makes you happier. It can give you the walker's high because it releases endorphins into your body. It stops overthinking, and it can combat Alzheimer's. I'm rushing through these because I want to get onto an exercise of how best to walk. A lot of people walk wrong. They just do it wrong. And the way you walk is called your gait. And it basically means that if you have a good gait, then the whole experience of walking, both physically and mentally, can have much, much bigger benefits on you. So this is in the PDF, but I'm going to do this little exercise with you. And if you've got a towel, I did ask you to bring a towel, but if you haven't, don't worry, I'll do it and I'll demonstrate. So the idea is stand back here, is that you want to start walking with a straight back and your shoulders back, and you want to walk in small steps, and you don't want to move side to side. And by putting a towel on your head, you basically, if you put the towel on your head and put your feet just slightly apart, and then push up your head into the towel, your back straightens and your stomach goes up, your diaphragm goes up, and your chest goes back. And then try walking around the room, pushing your head up into the towel with the towel on your head, and you naturally cannot, your steps are really short, and you do not move from side to side. And if you practice this a few times, then take the towel off and then just imagine it's still there and do it. And you literally start to walk on short steps, arms side by side. You don't move from side to side, and your shoulders are back, stomach in, and your back is straight. And this is really, really good. So practice that. Get into the habit of walking correctly, and you will see humongous changes. Last slide for today is on breathing. And this is a little tip, which is so, so important. Something like 50% of adults breathe through their mouth and not their nose. And when they're out walking, they're breathing through their mouth. And this is the worst thing you can do, because your nose has lots of little hairs inside it, which stop all the gunk and the rubbish stuff going through. Whereas your mouth is the same as just basically opening it and taking the full exhaust pipe down. And so the idea is, how do you stop breathing through your mouth and breathing through your nose? Well, the Roman soldiers had this great idea. So they trained their armies to breathe through their nose only. So the centurions would send the armies out on running exercises, and they had to fill their mouths with water. And at the end of the exercise, if the soldier didn't have the water in his mouth, he was severely punished. Because obviously, if you've got water in your mouth, you have to breathe through your nose. And so we can do this as we walk. Have a small bottle of water, take a swig, and walk with the water in your mouth. You have to breathe through your nose. And if you do it for like 500 meters, spit the water out, put some more in. But honestly, if you do this for 2-3K, you will only breathe through your nose. You will just get used to it. You'll actually start to work this out. And do that for several days. And before you know it, you'll never breathe through your mouth again, unless you really wanted to, when you walk. And that has major, major effects on your health. So again, as I said, there's quite a few walking exercises in the PDF. I hope you've enjoyed today. My name's Nigel Jones, and you can check me out on 9KM by 9 AM. Thank you very much for listening. And if you've got any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, any questions?
Not from me. Has anybody else got any?